G'day, Aussie Bonsai bloke. Here you go. Today we're going to be working on this olive. This poor old olive has been my test pilot for a lot of projects, and today's going to be no exception. No. What do you call it? No exception. Oh man, I'm so bad at English. Today's going to be no exception. We're going to work on it, and completely different style. I know it's looking pretty cool now. We've got all these shoots down here that need to come off. Go. It's looking pretty cool. It's, you know, when I collected this thing, it was probably only this big, about half size trunk, had no root flare. It was a bulb that actually went in at the bottom. Now it actually is flaring out. Starting to look pretty good. This is also one that I did the demonstration on making old bark. I did a bit of an experiment on this one first and sandpapered all the branching and the base, and I'm actually really getting some old craggy bark over the thing now, so that worked out pretty good. Well, today we're going to do a different experiment. I want to create a flat top acacia, a bit like in Africa. Try and do it out of an olive, where the drafts eat the bottom, and for some reason the top stays dead flat as well. Not sure why the top does, but it does. And I want to try and do that, but it's a bit of an experiment for me because I don't have one in that style. So, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to give it a go. If you really want to have a look at someone that knows what they're doing, go and have a look at Nigel Saunders and his serissa, because he does a really good job with that one. That one looks really good. I'm not sure whether I tried to do it with this one at one stage, but it's turned out to be a bull. So yeah, let's get into it. And I'm going to repot it too, because this pot is completely rotted out. You can see the side here is just falling away. It's completely rotted out. The back, look at that. It's completely gone. So the tree's been just resting in that wood for a long while now. The wood's completely rotted through, but the tree didn't mind it. You can see the roots have actually grown into the wood. Wood actually is a really good thing to grow a tree into, especially a starter tree, because it really does promote good growth out of a tree. Gives it good insulation, good, you know, just everything's good about it. Good insulation, good aeration, and you can see, you know, it's rotted out, it's all pitted out, and it probably even feeds the tree a bit, you know, who knows. But anyway, let's get to the tree. I'll bring it in close and show you guys. Look at that beautiful dog under there having a sleeper. Took him down the river yesterday and did a bit of fishing, so he's tired. And you're just chilling out, aren't you, buddy? You're just chilling out, you're tired. Yes, you are tired, aren't you, Papa? You're a bit tired, Papa? You're a cute boy, aren't you, hey? Love you very much, yeah. You do? No, Papa, you have a sleep. Okay, back to the tree. You can see, and you can see the bottom here, there's actually still wood underneath the bottom there, see? Worms, look at the worms hanging out. Good to see, look at all the worms. Look at it, poor little guys hanging everywhere. Alright, so the structure of this tree. The structure of this tree, well, look, it's been trimmed in a dome shape. I want to do a flat top, and you got two ways of doing it. You can stop the top here where it is, let sides grow up into there to create the flat top. Or a quicker way is to chop the top back hard so that the sides are already level with the top of the tree. So that's a way of doing it too. Now we've got a bit of an issue with this side one here, because it's never going to make the height that it needs to. So I'm in two minds, either cut it off or I could pull it up with a guide wire. Really try and pull it up there. And maybe, I was even thinking I could pull it up and then even create a double flat top. So a flat top here and then another little flat top out to the side here. And also if you have a look under here, you know, this is not the best structure. This has been an experimental tree, but under here it's got some structure going up. If we cut it back too hard on the top here, what's going to happen is you're going to lose all that structure and you're just going to have a few branches. So you want to find a happy medium between cutting the top back hard and keeping a lot of those branch divisions in there, which are in there. And you want to keep a happy medium between that or going too hard, cutting it all back so there's nothing. And also if you go too high, then the sides have got to grow up too much. So we're going to find a happy medium. Low branches like this one that are just hanging straight down are going to be chopped off. There's no point keeping them. Okay, so you can see there's a bit of growth on them. They're going to be gone. There's no point keeping them. This one's hanging down like this one here. There's this one here hanging down. That one will be gone too. So we're going to come in here later and clean it up once we get rid of the majority. But I think to get rid of the majority, I'm not going to individually go through and clean it up. I'm just going to do the lazy way, the Aussie Bonsai bloke way, and see if we can't get rid of a fair bit of bulk pretty quick. So let's do that. If we're going to create a double flat top, I might actually wire this side up first. So I've already got some provisions ready. This bit of dripper tube. Okay. Get another one ready. So I feel like we're going to need two. Just chop them. I feel like we're going to need two, so let's just go in here. What I want to do is I want to try to pull up these branches here so that they're going more upright, because at the moment they're straight out, and straight out is going to be no good for this design at all. And whatever's not going to end up going upright is just going to be chopped off. We're just going to go through and chop it off later. Right, so let's tie that one off. Right, I'm going to wrap it around here, around the main trunk here. We're going to feed some tube up here to protect the main trunk as well. And then I'm just going to pull on this cord while holding the tube. Ooh. That didn't work. The knot came undone. Let's go again. So I think the knot came undone here where I had this tied around here. Didn't do enough loops. Tied enough loops. Right, let's try again. It should be right. And let's come up here. Feed that back through around the main trunk, same as I said before. Just make sure you guys can see what's going on here. Okay guys, so here's a wire here coming up through there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to feed it up, and we've got it tied off down here. Just going to feed it up there, put the tube there to protect the trunk, pinch here with the tube and then pull on that, and hopefully what we can get is we can get it to bring that whole branch upright. Really pull it hard. Wrap around pretty firmly. So that one's pulled that one up more. Beauty. Alright. Let's chop that bit of copper wire. Wrap that one around. Now I want to do the same with this trunk, this branch here. Bring it up. So let's get the other one that we made. Put that around this lower branch here. Wrap it round. You want to go into this pretty same spot, pretty much same spot, but maybe from the other way. Pull it up more to the front. Okay. Feed on my tube. So this will hopefully bring this whole branch more upright, so we can use that as a secondary flat top, a lower trunk. And I might put that one further out on the branch out here. Pull it right up. It'll tangle up in the other one for now, but that's alright. Just need to get it up in there. Alright. So it's tangled up in the other branch, but that's fine. We'll sort that out later, clean it up later. We just want it all upright. So if we bring you guys back a bit, you can see now these branches go upright rather than straight out. And that's the sort of thing I was going for, so that we can hopefully keep these branches in the future. You'll also notice here that bark is all caused from the sandpaper. It's actually caused it to really plate up really nice. So it's a good tip for you guys if you want to create some old bark on a young tree. Sandpaper the smooth bark and you end up with, you know, some old looking bark on a young tree. And now there's a back branch back here, you can see. Same thing, I want to pull that one up. Might actually cut that tube a bit shorter so that we can do a tighter knot on that one. And I'll probably wrap it around both of these branches at the back, because there's two, it sort of divides. And I'm not really looking for, well, as you might have gathered, I'm not really looking for precise cuts or movements here. I'm just looking to get the majority of it going up, and then later on whatever gets cut off is just bad luck. It doesn't really matter, as long as we can keep the majority of the structure. So most of those years worth of structure we can keep. Alright, now let's get some more dripper tube to protect that trunk again. And the other branches are all going up pretty well, so we're not going to worry too much about any other branches. These are just the main ones. I didn't want to lose all them years of growth on that side. 10 years probably of growth. Didn't want to lose that. So this is a really good way of keeping that. So we're going upright with that one as well. Oh, it's almost cut my fingers trying to pull on that. same things wrap around everything. Really trying to get it to go. Really trying to get it to stay upright. Okay, everything's protected with a tubing. The tubing's from the, you know, the air system on a fish tank. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. Chop the excess off. That's probably the hard work done, you know. The rest will just be trimming and shoot selection. And then we'll repot it at the end. But that's the hard work done. So right, let's have a look under there now. You can see things are going up. It's going up to a point that you could almost now keep that as part of the top tree and have one tree. Decisions, Sammy. Decisions. My original plan was to have a secondary flat top here and then another flat top up here. But now it's actually done pretty well, better than I thought, to bring it up into the actual tree. Look, I had my heart set on a double canopy, so I think I'll still do a double canopy. Yep, I think we still will. No, I haven't got anything yet. Right, we're going to get the big guns out and create that flat top. And when we create that flat top, sorry, you guys are sideways there, I didn't realise that. When we create this flat top on this tree now, across here, the whole middle is going to be bald. It's going to be like an old man's head, you know, the crown sticking out where they've grown too tall for their hair. And it's just what will happen. It'll have a bald head in the middle. Crown sticking out. And then we'll just chop off some of the low ones if they're hanging down. And just clean up the leaves down the bottom so we can show some of the structure in the branches. Get rid of a lot of leaves. And on this side here, we're going to hopefully cut here and have a secondary level canopy here and a top one up here. So let's get to that. Okay guys, it is a pretty nice tree already, so it's a bit sad, you know, to do this, but we're going to do it. Let's do it. This poor old tree, every time it starts to look good, I hack it back and do something different on it, or do the bark experiment, because it was always a crappy tree, but it's actually turned into a nice tree, so I feel a bit bad, but if this turns out, I think it could actually be something quite nice in the future. So let's give it a go, see what happens. So let's choose a spot. That looks good. I'll go a little bit less hard at the start and maybe hit it harder later. Oh, sorry for the noise, You can see the flat top. I'll show you the bald spot. So we got an old man bald spot on top now, you can see that. A bit was taken back. Oh, I forgot to push record. No, I didn't, don't be silly. Couldn't get that back again. Right, you can see I've gone on a bit of an angle. And the reason for that is because I thought, if I cut through here on this side, even, and then had it even here, it would nearly be the same height. But while I was doing it, I thought, why don't we tilt the tree a bit that way, and then have your two separate canopies. If it doesn't work out, we're going to go with one canopy, but I did do it so we could lean it a little bit. I don't know, who knows? It's a work in progress. And also there was some pretty heavy stuff in here, so I thought if we're going too much of an angle back that way, might get rid of too much. But then, looking at the angle of it all, it'd straighten it up too much if I go that way. That way. Decisions. Let's go with that for now. As you can see, I haven't really made up my mind as to what I'm doing because I'm no expert. So if that's the way we're going to go with it, let's, bear with me for a second. Let's put this bit of wood under here. Okay, it's got it pretty straight. Pretty straight flat top there. And then what we're going to do is let's do some branch selection. I've got some root pruning scissors because they're a little bit less, sensitive to hardcore work. Basically, I'm going to cut a lot of stuff just growing down. Where there's a lot of clutter growing down, I'm going to chop it off and try and keep upright things without getting too carried away. We're going for upright. I'm just going to clean it out a bit so we can hopefully see more and more branch structure and less leaves. Because when you got too many leaves like this, it makes it look too young. It doesn't look old enough. You've got to really thin it out and get quite a thin pad of actual foliage, and the less amount of foliage you've got, the actual older it starts to look. So we've got a big cross and branch here getting in the way. Let's chop that one off. That one's gone. Right, this one here. We've got a, make sure you guys can see. I hope you can. Alright, there we go. Hopefully that's better. Alright, now in here we've also got this branch here that's coming straight out sideways and competes with all this stuff. So let's chop that off. Don't need it. See you, mate. Also got one coming down from the top here. Hope you can see that. We'll get rid of that one. Okay, you can start to see division up to the top. A big cross and one coming down here. We got one coming down here. Don't want that. Yeah, I think anything that's not heading up into the foliage, I'm going to just chop off and see how we go with that for a while. It's not going up, it's coming off. Now, I'm wondering what's happening here with this side branch. It just doesn't suit it. I want to keep it, but maybe what I'll do, I'm going to pull it up even further that has to actually become part of this main canopy. I think we're going to actually just have one single canopy now. It's going to have to be pulled up level with the top canopy. It's just going to become part of it. Whatever doesn't make it up to the top now is getting chopped off. So, which means we're going to have to go even tighter on all these branches. Could end up being quite a long video, but it's a fairly major restyle, I think you would agree. Just want to chop that off, shorten the tube, almost cut my finger. Right, let's get this up into the main canopy. It's got to become part of the main canopy. If it can't become part of the main canopy, it's getting chopped off. And I do like the idea of 3 main trunks going up into the main canopy. You can obviously wire some things, but some things it's just too hard to wire. Just get rid of them. Right, so that's that one up. Right, let's do the next one, which is going to be difficult because I've done about 50 laps here. Unwire it. You're going to have to do a fair bit of editing. Unwire. Okay, let's pull this next one up quite severely. Right up, wriggle it into the main canopy. Just give it a good wriggle, don't be too gentle. Make sure it gets into the main canopy. Right, make sure the fish tube's protecting the trunk. And then we've got one at the back here, which we've almost unwired. Problem is I did about 50 laps of each wire, so it's a bit of a pain. Right. Okay. Try to slide that one up a bit more. So holds those two branches together, and then we're going to pull them up, wriggle them into the canopy, give them a good wriggle so that they can become part of it. Make sure your tube's up in the canopy, your tube's up around the main trunk, protecting it, and then tie it off. Okay, doesn't look pretty, it's not the prettiest guide wire job, so if you're not familiar with bonsai, this is a guide wire, pulling it all up. Alright, get our root scissors, chop off some excesses, and now we've got our one main plane for the tree. So now that we've got our one main plane, I might get the hedge trimmer out again and just make sure everything's good. This hedge trimmer's a real bugger to start. Especially once it's warm. Worst hedge trimmer I've ever seen to start. To a point that I do just give up. Ryobi, your hedge trimmer's a piece of crap, mate. I know I'll get a comment for saying that I'm not choking it properly, but that's just how they are. These things are a heap of crap, and they're actually worse once they're hot to get going again. Alright, anyway, let's do it all by hand. Pretty well there anyway. We'll get our big trimmers out. And just see how we go with that. Get a nice clean line. These actually have extendable handles. Just want to make sure that I'm putting it back in a good spot. Dead flat on top. Stand back and have a look. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty flat on top. Probably don't want to go down too much harder than that, because if I go down too much harder, I start to lose more and more of the top, and you end up with a massive bald spot. Probably now it's just a matter of choosing branches on the sides. And let's get to that. Okay guys, let's give it a go. So basically we just want to keep upright stuff, and where it gets too congested, just chop off a lot of the crossing branches or inward branches that are choking other stuff out. Can probably get me good scissors out at this point. And a lot of your inward branches and crossing branches we'll get rid of. So, and just keep the good structure ones. So there was a big strong branch facing in, we'll cut that one off. We'll just keep the nice flowing branches. And another thing that we will have to do is take off all the leaves down lower so that you can see some of the branch structure. Anything that stops you from seeing the structure, we're going to cut off. Because we want to be able to see any of the structure. So anything coming back across or going down or covering up the structure, it's going to be cut off so that we can see all the branches through the whole thing, hopefully. That's the plan. Whether or not it turns out, who knows, but that is the plan. So basically anything that's not going to reach it up to the top canopy now is going to be chopped off. So if it's only reaching halfway up, it's going to be chopped off now. That's it. If it crosses other branches and just becomes too congested, I'll chop it off. If it faces down, I will chop it off. And I'm also taking the leaves off the bottom so you can see the branch structure. And any branch that's in the way of hiding the branch structure is going to be chopped off too. So we want a fairly thin canopy of leaves with not that many leaves, you know, because they don't, if you have a look at one of these acacia trees in the wild, they don't actually have that many leaves because, you know, giraffes and stuff, they come through, and the elephants, and they pluck out everything they can reach. So you end up with this very thin line of leaves. It's like the tree reaches maximum height that it can, which is just high enough to stay away from the giraffes. But there's no leaves down low, and every time it pushes that leaves down low, they get eaten off again. So there's going to be no low leaves, no low limbs. I'm just going to pretend that I'm a giraffe, and everything that I can see that I want to eat, I'm going to just rip it off. So I'm going to pretend that I'm a giraffe that can reach almost to the top, but not quite. And I'm going to rip off every leaf that I can up to that point, and maybe rip off a few shoots too, because that's what a giraffe would do on its way up through the canopy. And it doesn't matter if you thin it out a bit, because the more thinned out it looks really at the end, the more old and believable it will actually look. If you leave it too thick, it will actually look less believable, because yeah, all your branches and your twigging is too thick. So we'll see how we go around the whole tree. I'll probably go on hyperlapse now, giving you a bit of a quick demo. You can start to see here now, and then we'll just have a thin line of leaves at the top. Even these, I've almost cut this one off, but just left it because it's just made it. And anything below that height is getting cut off or ripped off, as if I'm a giraffe in there eating away, having a good snack. And we'll just see how we go. You know, whatever it turns out like, it turns out like. Well, that's the plan. Something different, different style for me. It's good fun. All right, hyperlapse done. Okay guys, I know it looks pretty crude, been pretty harsh on this tree, poor little tree. Right, so we got that pretty well chopped out. A lot of the low branches, hanging down branches, the ones that didn't make it up into the proper canopy have been chopped off. There's a couple that are slightly lower where a giraffe might just get to, but I've left them because, you know, there's always a younger giraffe that needs to come along later and still get a feed. So maybe the parents left a bit of feed for the young ones on purpose, which is why there's still a few low ones. That's what I tell myself anyway. So anyway, like I say, I'm no expert. If you really want to, you know, well, it's been chopped with the trimmer. If you really want to check out the style, go and check out Nigel Saunders' serissa, because his is bloody awesome. But anyway, we're going to repot it. We're going to clean out the roots, and then we're going to try and choose a pot that we're going to want to put it in. So let's do that. I'll bring it back all cleaned out. You can see the root base on this is actually getting good. You'll see it later in a second. You'll see it, and it's actually starting to become quite a good root system on a tree that I literally grabbed the top and ripped it out the ground when it was young, with no tools, no nothing, just ripped it out the ground. So you can see it's barking up. All right, cool. I'll see you guys when the soil is cleaned out. G'day guys, welcome back. Just gotta find my light, which I don't know what I do with. Here we go, that's what I'll do. And my plan is just to plug it in and put a bit more light at the base of this tree, so you guys can see a bit more of the detail. Right, now, interesting fact. I've cleaned off all the roots, taken a fair few away, but still a heaps. As you can see, super healthy root system. This tree will be fine, especially with the reduction on the top. Anyway, well, another thing, you can see the bark here, all this bark now on this tree, making it look really old now. It's actually looking pretty cool. You can see the flare now. Look at the flare. You can really see these roots coming out. And not only that, guys, another surprise that happened. And this is the beauty about repotting. Repotting can actually be the most exciting part of your tree, because when you repot, strange things happen. And just pull this one out, it's a crossing root. Pull that one out. Strange things can happen. And what's happened on this one? This was the front. Now, we spin it round, you can see most foliage is going out that way now. If we keep spinning it, keep spinning, look at that. That gives you the beautiful flare out that way, flare out this way. We can chop off this crossing root here. Okay, so we've got a flare out that way. Chop this crossing root off here. Goes across everything. Maybe even this one here. Just keep these ones that are going radial. This one here can go. Look at that. Oh, this one. Get rid of that one too. Anyway, we won't go crazy on the roots, but look at that. You got the flare, you got this side's flare. Maybe even put a bit of wire on that and bend that one out. That one out would matter, I don't know. I think just this one. Let's put a big bit of wire on that one and bend it out. Okay guys, unfortunately I don't really have a lot of strong wire anymore because I've stopped wiring my trees so much. I'm actually running out of wire. Just haven't bothered buying any. But anyway, let's run that one around there. So when you do wire, although I don't wire much, I will show you, when you wire, you want an anchor point. So that one there's been wrapped around the back of there and wrapped on there. So that's the anchor point. Now we've got a guide wire in the way, so we're going to have to feed that through. couple of times. And then you just want to run it up the branch using the other fingers to support the branch and run the wire. Wiring is not rocket science. You just wrap and wire around a branch so that you can move it, and making sure that it has an anchor point so that it has something to you know, to bend against, I suppose you could say. But anyway, we're going to try bending it just with that little bit of wire. I think that's enough. You know, it's going to straighten up a little bit, but that's enough. That's all we need. I had this extra wire just in case, but that's all we need. Just that one little bit of wire just to bring it out a bit. And then as things progress, it will spread out more and more. So that's pretty cool. So we got a new front. I don't know what you guys think of the new front, but this branch here at the front goes straight up into it all. We could possibly turn it a bit more, but then we're putting that branch at the back. Decisions. So another thing we can do now, if that's going to become the front with this nice flare, can leave this in front of the main trunk, or big decision, can leave this in front of the main trunk, or it has to go. If that's going to be the front, let's just choose. Okay, if that's the front, it's fine, leave it. Becomes depth, becomes the back. It's fine. You've got this feature here of this dead stuff. Still fine, that's a fine front. It can also be a front. Let's just try reducing this part of it first. I just feel like this has to be the front. Alright, let's reduce this part of it first. That opens it up. About like that. Like that. Let's reduce a bit at a time. Maybe we'll do that. That can go there. Yep, I'm happy with that. It's good enough. It's given us what we wanted. I'll get rid of this stub here. Keep this branch here. Can go up the top to help top of the tree. Flat top. And I'm pretty happy with that. Somewhere in there. So let's find a pot. Okay, so I had this pot in mind, but I feel like it's going to be too narrow, which it is. You could fit it, so you can fit it. It could definitely fit in there. It just fits. The narrowness of the root system just makes it fit, but it can go in there. It's fine. Okay, it's a very, very deep, heavy pot though for a, you know, the acacia flat top is quite an elegant looking tree. So to have such a heavy, heavy pot on an elegant looking tree is probably not great. Well, how about this one? I got this one from the Adelaide Bonsai show. This is Luke Parsons' homemade pot. You know, he's ceramics. He's a ceramicist in Adelaide, a potter, whatever they like to call themselves. And Luke Parsons made that one, and I bought it at the show. So let's put it in that one and see how she goes in that one. Okay, so she's going to fit. The round pot is quite an earthy sort of a pot. A really earthy type pot. Possibly. It could possibly fit. I think it suits it better than the other pot. Talk to me, pot. Talk to me. You know what? I think I will put it in there for now. If in a few years' time I don't like it, I can move it out of there. But for now, I can put it in there. I just can't believe the size of this trunk now. This trunk was literally like this big when I first ripped it out, and now it's like double that size. So just proof that inside of a pot, they still really grow, really fatten up. Right. Well, we've decided that, so what we'll do is we'll just create a few little pegs. Luke Parsons is actually that good, that nice of a bloke, that he actually supplied with his pots, he supplied tie downs to tie your tree down. He supplied screens to put in his pot. So let's put some screens in. So we just make up a little plug, push it out the bottom, and just flatten it off at the bottom, which holds them in there nice. And I'll just do that for all of them. Just quickly shove them in, flatten them out at the bottom. I've already dirtied his pot, can't believe I've dirtied it like this. No, you can play around and get perfect square bends with pliers and all that, you know, mucking around, but it doesn't change the function of how it works. Basically, you just want to pin the mesh in there so it doesn't fall out. And quite often, as you guys have seen in the past, I don't even put pins in to hold the mesh. I literally just place the mesh in the bottom and put the soil on top. But anyway, here we go. We're putting the proper little pegs in to hold them in. You know, I just absolutely love doing bonsai, all the mucking around and the fact that you can change sides of the tree just in one day and go for a whole different look. Right, I'm probably gonna trim up, if I can find the scissors. Probably gonna just trim up the edges of these roots a bit. Actually, let's get the root ones. Just trim them up a bit. Get it more condensed because it's going into quite a small pot for such a big tree. But olives are so hardy that they're happy to handle it. And if in years to come I decide this tree is too big for this pot, you know, we can repot it again. Not a big deal. You put it in the wrong pot, it's only a few years and you can go and choose another pot later. Not a big deal. Some people get pretty hell bent on making sure you get the perfect pot and plant at the perfect angle, which is still, you know, a good idea. But if you don't quite, you know, 3 years goes pretty damn quick. Right, so it's actually got heaps of room now for soil, so it's going to have a heap of growing room. I'm going to actually lift it up a little bit and have it mounded a little bit. I don't like to over mound them, but I do like to have a bit of a mound. So we'll have a bit of a mound. Oh man. and put it in this pot. I think I just caught COVID. I just sucked in a bit of COVID and now I'm in trouble. Seeing as I'm an anti-vaxxer, I'm going to be in serious trouble. Right, there we go. Put it in somewhere there. Maybe push it more to the right and let the flare come out here to the left. And when I say I'm an anti-vaxxer, I only mean anti-COVID vaxxer, not every other vaccine. Every other vaccine I'm up to date, apart from tetanus. There we go. Cheers. Okay guys, let's get her in the pot. Stop mucking around and get her in there. Put a bit of a pile on the bottom. Just plain succulent mix in Australia, that's fine. Well, when I say Australia, I mean the hot parts of Australia. I'm still temperate climate, but our summers are hot and our winters are mild, so it's fine here. Now, get it quite flat on the top. Wriggle it in. Lean it forward towards the viewer a little bit, but still keep it nice and flat. Now, just push it slightly over to the right hand side. Actually, before I push it over to the right hand side, what I'll do is I'll put a couple of handfuls of soil on the right hand side. Work them in a bit now before I push it over. And what that will do is it'll make it go into the roots without having to chop stick away like a weirdo. Just do that with your fingers. And then, look at this for a trick guys. Push it over. Make sure it's flat. Look at that. Just pushed into all the roots without having to chop stick like a weirdo. Beauty. You know, anything to make life a bit easier. Because I've left the heart of the soil there underneath these roots, or the heart of the root ball, you know, with soil in it, I don't have to work soil right to the middle of the tree. I only have to make sure that the soil or the succulent mix gets to the roots on the outside of the root ball, because the inside has still got its heart there. The heart on this one is still quite fresh, even after 8 years, or, well, in actual fact I collected this thing 12 years ago. No word of a lie, it's 12 years this tree, and I think that was this is its second time repotting. And what you see is, you know, probably that wooden box probably rotted out in the last 6 years, maybe 7, I think. So, you know, long time between repots, and that's fine. Olives don't mind sitting in the pot for a long time without a repot. You don't need to repot olives all the time. I'm quite happy sitting in their old pot. Cool, right? So we got that down packed. What I will do, which I don't normally do, but what I will do is I'll get a brush and I'll brush some roots. Okay. Just noticed it's a little bit up on the right, so I'm just trying to tilt it back down on the right hand side a bit. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. Now let's just brush soil away from the roots right near the flare, so we can hopefully see some more of the flare, more of the roots. We'll just brush the soil away so we can see that, and it's not going to affect the health because the growth on the roots is further out. This will allow us to place moss more towards the more towards the outside away from these other roots so you can still see the other roots. Because being able to see these roots is what actually makes a tree look old. And it will also, this also demonstrates that an olive, over time, even when you flat cut them like this one was, will develop surface roots and a flare. So this one here had no flare or surface roots, and then after I've chopped it and let it grow for a long time, it even cut in a bit originally. As it's grown out, it's developed a flare, natural flare. So pretty cool, pretty cool. So let's just do that all the way around. Then we'll just brush the edge of the pot all the way around. Get rid of all this excess soil. Doesn't help that it's all over the table everywhere either. You can clean it up a bit more later once we've mossed it, but let's just clean up the edge. Make it all nice and fancy. You know, going to repot it, make it look nice. This pot of Luke Parsons from Adelaide Potter. Luke Parsons is actually pretty cool. He's super busy at the moment, but you know, if you really want a handmade pot for a tree, which is a really cool experience to have a handmade pot custom made for your tree, get on to Luke Parsons. Really cool potter. So this is one of his pots. I got this at the show. This is just one of his, you know, he didn't specifically make it for a tree. Well, he made it for a tree, but not for a certain tree. And I like the look of it, so I bought it. So there you go. I got it for a steal, only $99. Then if you get a custom made one, they're a bit dearer than that, obviously, because, you know, a lot of work goes into a pot. Probably a couple days work all up, so anyway. Right, let's get some moss on here. So we collected some moss, me and the son, Seth. You can see all that moss that we collected. We collected that a couple of days ago. I collected it dry and brown looking, or me and Seth did. We collected it brown looking, and then what we did is we wet it down with a hose on top of this bit of tin. We wet it down with a hose, and it greened up in only a day and a half. It was only a day and a half since we collected this, and it's really greened up the moss. So good tip for you, even if you're in summer, your moss has gone brown in your property, you can still collect it, hose it down on a plate or whatever, bit of tin, bit of plastic, whatever you like, and it will green back up pretty quick indeed. So there we have it. I really want to just spread the different types of moss around a bit. I'm a bit limited at my place. I only have 3 or 4 different types of moss. I'd love to have more, but don't seem to find too much different moss. So I'm going to make do. This really, so get this sort of really compact stuff. That's really cool. It actually turns out pretty cool in the long run. But I also get this really fluffy, I guess you could almost call it like sphagnum type moss. Not quite though, it's different to that. That stuff's a bit harder. When you put it in the pot, it will actually die back for a while. So if you're going to show your tree and you're going to moss it up, don't use this type of moss. This moss actually browns up for a while and then gets established and then starts to green up again. So I generally don't use this type of moss if I want it to look good straight away. what I will use is this green moss here. Comes straight off the top of the rocks, growing with a thin bit of dirt underneath, and it grows straight on the rocks. And I find this stuff is actually really good at staying green. The only problem is if you made your whole pot that same type of moss, that same colour, it would look quite boring. So you have to use other types of moss. I just wish I had a different type of moss that wasn't like this really greenish sphagnum moss, which can die back. Not always, but quite often. I wish I just had one more type of moss on my property so I could at least do 2 varieties of moss that are always going to stay green. This stuff here off the rocks does stay green. It's beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, anyway, just another thing, you know, moss in your trees. Put a bit of moss around the place. Son has a lot of fun collecting the moss. I actually give him a bit of pocket money to go out and collect the moss for me. And he loves it. Loves going out collecting it. Gives him something to do. Right. I'm pretty happy with that. Probably give it a good water outside. Not so much inside right now. I just don't feel like making a huge water mess, although why not, you know? Who cares? Right, let's get rid of that moss. Plenty of moss left over for another tree. That's another project which was hoping to do tonight, but I've ran out of succulent mix. So gonna have to wait for another day to get some more mix. Pretty cool, man, pretty cool. Luke's pots are bloody awesome. Oh, it's for a steal, $99. And I tell you what, people who'd walk past it for that price. For a handmade pot for $99 of this sort of, you know, rustic sort of feel, I just don't understand how people could walk past it. First thing I did was just pick it up and take it. I thought I'd grab a bargain. And it is a bargain. Look at that. Bloody beauty. Right. Just get ready for a spin. This video is probably carried on long enough. The tree's not that great, so we shouldn't really be carrying this video on for long enough, but there you go. Good day guys, welcome back. Well, we'll just put it on this spinning tree turntable by Adrian Eggleton. It makes great turntables. And we'll give you a spin on the way out. So yeah, stunning tree, stunning pot. Well, not a stunning tree. It's an experimental tree and it's been through a lot of experiments, but it just keeps on giving, this tree. And the bark on it now is just absolutely beautiful, all the way up. So, you know, it's got reverse taper, so what? Doesn't really bother me. Right, give you a spin on the way out, and I'll catch you next time guys. Cheers for watching Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your mates about the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because if I can hit 10,000 subscribers by Christmas, I might even give a free giveaway. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Cheers. Alright, let's give you a spin on the way out. Flat top.